Welcome back, everybody. It's Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. Today we have standardized test performances, a lawmaker arrested, and a fairly wild crime roundup. My name's Ike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. We know that for several years now, the state has made it a priority to improve reading and literacy for students in the early grades. See Alabama Reading Initiative and Alabama Literacy Act. And overall, this past spring, standardized testing showed that scores were up in language arts. Still, reports AL.com's Tricia Powell Crane, there seems to be a bit of a drop off for the older students who were tested in grades 4 through 8. State Superintendent Eric Mackey has supported more funding to support efforts to help those students get up to speed. And lawmakers did move $5 million for those efforts this coming budget year. There are some concerns over math scores as well. The test and performance of second and third graders fell year over year, something that's a bit of a mystery for state education officials to try to figure out. And seventh and eighth graders improved year over year, but were still significantly less proficient than those in the earlier grades. A member of the Alabama State House was arrested and charged with forgery crimes, reports AL.com's Carol Robinson. State Representative Kelvin Lawrence, a Hayneville Democrat, is accused of using a fake or altered builder's license with intent to defraud. The charges are second-degree forgery and second-degree criminal possession of a forged instrument, both felonies. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall said the Special Prosecutions Division is prosecuting the case. Lawrence is a former mayor of Hayneville. He was elected to the Alabama House of Representatives in 2014. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed the bill that would designate the underwater forest off Alabama's coast as a national marine sanctuary, reports AL.com's Margaret Cates. The 60,000 to 70,000-year-old fossilized cypress forest was discovered by former AL.com reporter Ben Raines in 2012 after it was partially uncovered during Hurricane Ivan in 2004. The bill was sponsored by Congressman Jerry Carl, a Mobile Republican. Barry Moore of Enterprise didn't vote Monday evening, but the rest of the Alabama delegation voted in favor. Now, if it wins final approval, it'll prohibit activities such as drilling and digging, but fishing, diving, and anchoring will continue to be allowed in the area. Well, I'll take a moment here because I can't not acknowledge Joe Bonzel's passing. Joe Bonzel was the curly-haired tenor for the Oak Ridge Boys, the one who used to hop around on stage so much. Now, even though he's not from Alabama like the Oaks baritone William Lee Golden of Bruton is, I think a lot of people in our part of the world might have shared in the multi-generational impact that quartet had. What I mean is, as an example, during my preteen years, I had some cassette tapes of Waylon Jennings, Jimmy Buffett, Michael Jackson, while my grandma had a few gospel albums and some old stuff. Now, it was at the Oak Ridge Boys where our musical tastes crossed over, a godly senior woman and a smooth-faced troublemaker. So I'd bring over my tape recorder and fill blank cassettes up with her Oaks albums. The entire quartet was great. Golden sounded great in his solo work. Richard Sturbin sang bass with Elvis. Dwayne Allen was the lead singer, but Bonzel's higher notes were the biggest stroke in the group's signature and the hook of many of its songs. Joe Bonzel, who had Lou Gehrig's disease, was 76 years old and passed away Tuesday, a little more than a week after Golden's son, Rusty, who was also a musician from Bruton. Let's take a quick break and then do a kind of a crazy crime roundup. We don't do a whole lot of regular crime stories here on Down in Alabama. It would be kind of tough to know where to draw the line, and a lot of crime is really very local in nature. But a couple weeks back, we had reporter Carol Robinson on the show. She covers a lot of crime and other public safety stories. And we talked a little about how some crimes seem to crop up during the really hot part of the summer. Statistically, it's not as eye-popping as it seems anecdotally, but here we are in July, and I've noticed some kind of wild crime reports that have come in. Not all of the crimes happened or allegedly happened in the last few days, but some have, and we've had some other updates on older crimes. So I'm going to run down some of what our staff has reported lately. Now, again, we can't be comprehensive. There are a lot of folks out there, so these don't mean the world's on fire, but they offer a snapshot of what's going on in the law enforcement world. It also includes quirky stories, but overall, not an effort at humor. There's some awful stuff in here, too. Carol, Greg Garrison, William Thornton, John Sharp, Howard Koplowitz, and Wire Services contributed to the reporting. Last week, first, there were 6 homicides in 7 days in Birmingham. Mayor Randall Woodfin found himself pleading with residents once again to stop resorting to violence. He was careful to say city officials aren't victim blaming, but he warned people about who they're around and the cycle of retaliation. Quote, "Stop trying to live out your TV fantasies by attempting to rob drug dealers," he said. During 2023, Birmingham police say that ShotSpotter detected 2,164 shots fired in the East Lake neighborhood alone. Woodfin said many of those were drive-by shots fired into houses or cars. He said they're trying to crack down on illegal dumping, prostitution, drug dealing, and speeding in the area. A capital murder charge was dropped in the July 2020 case in which a man in Decatur was accused of killing a teenager during a fireworks war. The man instead pled guilty to being a felon in possession of a firearm. A Mobile man pleaded guilty after people complained he was taking mail from a postal collection box using some sort of tool covered in rat trap glue. Federal agents searched his house and say they found hundreds of checks and pieces of stolen mail used to create fake identities and forged checks. A burglary suspect in Cherokee County led police on a chase across a local lake. Deputies with arrest warrants showed up at the man's home, and according to Cherokee County Sheriff Jeff Shaver, he allegedly got to the lake, stole a boat, and took off in it. Area residents gave investigators access to a couple of jet skis, and they were able to chase the suspect across the lake, then run him down on the other side. And this last one doesn't reflect a crime, but it happened during an emergency situation that involved first responders, so I'll tell it anyway. A multiple vehicle crash blocked northbound lanes at the General W.K. Wilson Jr. Bridge on I-65 in Baldwin County. That's the Dolly Parton Bridge. Locals know what I'm talking about. It involved 3 tractor trailers, 6 cars, and 1 truck with a box trailer. Nobody was killed, but there were injuries. And 1 man got out of a car and jumped off the bridge to avoid the vehicles as they were piling up. He was rescued and taken to a hospital with minor injuries. Y'all be really careful out there. We're going to be back here again tomorrow. Until then, y'all come see us on the internet at al.com.